Hello everyone, and thank you for checking out this video. I had such a great response to my first video on historic homes in Greenville, and thank you so much for that. I wanted to do another video on this topic as there are more homes in Greenville that hold historical significance for the area. Now I will leave a link to my other historic homes of Greenville video in the description below, just in case you haven't seen it. But again, these are not all of the historical homes in Greenville, but a few more that I hope you will find interesting. I tried to find out as much about the history on each house as I could, but in some cases that was easier said than done. First up is the William Bates house. William Bates was a textile pioneer and was a very prominent and successful textile manufacturer in South Carolina. The house was built in 1835 and was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1978. And this house is believed to be the only remaining structure left standing to be associated with William Bates. The house is 2 stories with clapboard siding, which is also called weatherboard, bevel siding, or lap siding, and is often made of cedar, but not always. And I'm not sure if the siding on this house is made of cedar or not. The house has a gabled roof. Also, the foundation is of granite and fieldstone piers. These types of foundations are common in houses that are 100 years old or older. The inside of the house has been renovated and updated over the years, but I have read that some original details are still intact. Both front and rear porches extend the length of the house. Now, I could not find a lot of information on William Bates' early life, but he was born in Kent County, Rhode Island on April 17, 1800. And at the age of 8, he started working in the textile manufacturing industry. He came to South Carolina in 1819, and for the next several years, he worked for various textile mills in the upstate area of South Carolina. Then, in 1833, he bought 300 acres in the Rocky Creek area of Greenville County. It was here that he built a textile mill, and the mill community followed, and the area became known as Batesville. Over the next several years, Bates expanded his business, and around 1849, his son-in-law, Henry Pinckney Hammett, became a partner. The business continued to be successful, and in 1863, the Williams Bates Company was sold for $300,000. The original mill that Bates had built right off of what is now Highway 14 is no longer there. It actually burned to the ground in 1881. But there was another mill built at the same location, not by Bates, of course, and this building is now a restaurant. It's there at Highway 14 and the Pelham Road intersection area. The Bates house was sold in 1868 when David Bolton purchased the house and 150 acres of land. The house stayed in the Bolton family until 1977. William Bates died on March 18, 1872, at the age of 71. He and his wife, Mary McSearley Bates, are buried at the Ebenezer United Methodist Church in Greer, South Carolina. The Bates house is currently a private residence. The John H. Goodwin House is located at 3782 South Carolina Highway 11 near Travelers Rest, South Carolina in Greenville County. The house was added to the National Register of Historic Places on September the 8th, 1983. It is also known as the Goodwin House. The house was temporarily closed when I was there, and it looked as though they are doing some renovations to the property. I found it difficult to verify much of the early history of the house. A lot can be determined by the construction techniques and records that are available. In researching the house, I found that Elias Earl leased 300 acres to Robert Cook in 1793, and in the lease agreement it was stated that Cook could build a new house on the property that would be 20 feet long and 16 feet wide. Cook built what was essentially a two-room log cabin. Evidence of this log structure is present in the house today. Cook did purchase the land from Earl in 1816, and Cook then sold the land and other acreage to James Pickett in 1818. In 1830, Pickett sold 2 tracts of land to Thomas Blythe. It was thought that the house was expanded by Blythe, but there is no documentation to support this. Architectural analysis suggests a date of 1840 for the expansion, so it is possible that Blythe was responsible. Most people believe that John Goodwin was responsible for enlarging the house. Goodwin owned the property for 57 years. He actually purchased the land from John Hodges, who had purchased 1,186 acres from the estate of Thomas Blythe. Goodwin purchased 600 acres of this land from Hodges in 1842. And to me, that is a small gray area of 2 years for expansion of the house. If you remember, architectural analysis says that the expansion of the house was 1840, and at that time Thomas Blythe owned the property. John Goodwin was a farmer, a postmaster, and served 2 terms in the South Carolina House of Representatives. From 1865 to 1866, and again from 1872 to 1874. By 1860, Goodwin was farming 500 acres, and his main crops were corn and wheat. He also raised swine. At this time, his farm was worth $25,000. There were approximately 30 slaves at his plantation. John H. Goodwin died on January 4th, 1899, at the age of 82, and was buried in the Lima Baptist Church Cemetery. Goodwin had previously donated the land for the church to be built. After his death, the property was passed to John Goodwin's son, who later passed the property to his son-in-law, W.C. Haygood, in 1914. Also, it appears that John Goodwin was married twice. His first wife was Louisa Hodges Goodwin, and she died in 1866. His second wife was Sarah Ann Davis Goodwin, and she died in 1917. Also on the property is a relocated store building that Goodwin used to sell his goods and was probably used as a post office. This building was constructed around 1870. As for who owns the property now, I did find an article that said the Greenville County chapter of the Cherokee Foothills National Scenic Byway Association transferred its ownership of the property to Greenville County in 2013. The T.Q. Donaldson House, also known as the Dr. Davis Furman House, and it is located at 412 Crescent Avenue in Greenville, South Carolina. The house was built around 1863 and was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1980. According to some documentation that I have read, the house remains in near original condition. It is a two-story rectangular block house in the Italianate style that has a one-story wing on the right side of the house, if you're standing in front of the house, and also a one-story rear wing. There is also a three-room frame weatherboard structure that was constructed for use as a kitchen and servants' quarters. The house has weatherboard siding and a low-hip roof with a center front gable, bracketed eaves, boxed cornice, second-story window heads, a stair hall with an elliptical arch, and original woodwork. The original house was 1½ stories and built by William Williams. Williams was a member of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary that opened in Greenville in 1859. Williams was one of the first 4 professors of the seminary. Because of the Civil War, the school closed, and Williams sold the property to Arthur Rose. Rose sold the property to James W. Earl in 1866. The property was then sold at a public auction where Thomas Q. Donaldson purchased it in 1868 and converted the house to 2 stories. He also made other additions to the house. Thomas Donaldson was born in Greenville in 1834. He was a prominent lawyer and also served in the South Carolina Senate from 1872 to 1876. He joined the Butler Guards in 1861 and saw active service while in Virginia during the Civil War at the First Battle of Bull Run. He retired from the service in May of 1862 due to health reasons. Donaldson was also a leader for progressive change for Greenville County. He was involved in many different businesses in Greenville and also supported religious and educational activities. He was without question a community leader. As a side note, John O. Donaldson, the grandson of Thomas Donaldson, was a World War I flying ace, and Donaldson Air Force Base in Greenville was named in his honor. In November of 1859, Thomas Donaldson married Susan Hoke, and they had 4 children, 2 sons and 2 daughters. Susan Hoke Donaldson was born on April 22, 1836, and passed away on May 9, 1905, at the age of 69. Thomas Q. Donaldson was born on August 27, 1834, and passed away on May 3, 1912, at the age of 77. They are buried at the Christ Episcopal Church Cemetery in Greenville, South Carolina. When Thomas Donaldson died in 1912, his daughter Nancy and her husband Dr. Davis Furman, a leading physician in Greenville, inherited the property. I know that the property stayed in the family for many years after the death of Thomas Donaldson, but from what I can tell, it looks as though the property has been sold a few times over the last 30 years or so. So I am not sure that it is still in the family, although it may very well be. The house is larger than it looks from the road, as you can see from this image. I have seen where the house is listed as being 6,552 square feet and sits on a 1.75 acre lot. According to the documentation that I saw, it last sold in 2021 for $3.4 million. If you have the opportunity, I encourage you to read up on the Donaldson family, as they have a strong and positive history in Greenville as well as the country. The Norwood House, also called Alta Vista, is located at 411 Belmont Avenue in Greenville, South Carolina. The house is a late 19th century structure and is an example of Second Empire architecture in Southern America. It is one of the last surviving Victorian-era homes in Greenville, and it was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1982. The house was built in 1876 or 1877, I've seen both dates mentioned, by Jacob W. Cagle of Greenville for Charlestonian native and textile magnate Charles Henry Lenox II. After returning home from service in Hampton's Legion during the Civil War, Lenox began his career in textiles by going to work at Camperdown Mill as a bookkeeper. In 1882, Lenox and Greenville attorney Thomas Q. Donaldson, our friend from the previously mentioned Donaldson House, formed Huguenot Mill in Greenville. Then, in 1888, Lenox started his own mill called Lenox Manufacturing Company, and he built it on land that was adjacent to his home. Lenox had the mansion built on 39 acres of land that he bought from his widowed sister, Sophie Lenox Edwards. The house actually caught fire twice, once in 1883 and again in 1892. Both fires did significant damage, but after each fire, Lenox rebuilt the home. Lenox was bankrupt by 1907, maybe due in part from having to rebuild the mansion twice. I don't know that for sure, but it would not surprise me. At any rate, Lenox sold the mansion to John Wilkins Norwood, who was a relative by marriage, for $12,000. Charles Lenox was born on July the 11th, 1834, and died on October 28, 1913, at the age of 79. His wife, Antoinette Williams Lenox, was born on August 28, 1848, and died on June 24, 1927, at the age of 78. They are both buried at Christ Episcopal Church Cemetery in Greenville, South Carolina. After John Wilkins Norwood bought the house, he made upgrades such as adding plumbing, electricity, and a coal furnace, and decorative changes inside the home. After Norwood's death in 1945, the house stayed in the family until 2012. The house remains a private residence today. The house is a 2 1/2 story brick Second Empire style mansion with a mansard roof. The symmetrical facade is divided into 5 sections with projecting central and corner pavilions and an octagonal tower that extends a half story above the cornice line of the main block of the house. The front porch spans the full width of the facade and consists of slender posts with scroll brackets. I hope you enjoyed the video. I am always surprised at the history that these historic homes provide. Each one has a history that is unique and interesting. If you did enjoy the video, please like and subscribe and comment below. I would really appreciate it. I will have another video out soon, and I look forward to seeing you then. Thanks again.